Episode 46 of the Bmoney Beastin podcast. Dude, I say this for the last 10 episodes. I never thought I'd make it past episode 3. Granted, the first 5 episodes me and Bryson did, and they were entertaining, and we even did one where we were critiquing singlets and stuff, so it was pretty cool. But it's kind of evolved into this where we're meeting and talking to these unique people that are involved in the sport of wrestling. I think it's great. And, dude, your story is freaking awesome. I'm going to introduce you. Brian Swinehart wrestles at NAIA Defiance College in Defiance, Ohio. He is 45 years old. All right? And he's doing it right now. So what's your excuse? I need to ask what my excuse is. So, dude, I have got to know. All right? Mm-hmm. I just got to know. And then you can tell me all about how we got there. You go to practice, right? Every day.
Yeah, every day. Okay.
When you walk out of there, do you feel like crap?
Well, yes. And I also feel good at the same time. I don't even have to walk out of practice sometimes to feel the pain, right? I get out of my car and my lower back is tight and tense and painful. And, sometimes after practice, I'll sit a couple extra minutes to kind of let my knees and body kind of recover, right? Because it's a pretty physical, demanding sport. I'm practicing with guys 19, 20 years old, and they're leaving practice with ice on their shoulders. Right? So it's the sport is tough for a body of any age. But it's I feel kind of beat up sometimes. And there was a couple practices where my knees were at a point where I had to be on the bike the whole practice, getting my cardio in still, but I was just in pain. But that could happen to anybody at any age, right? I mean, when you're older, it's a little more difficult. But then at the same time, I'm leaving feeling fantastic because I had these killer workouts. I'm doing a sport that I love to do, that I'm passionate about. I'm thankful to God that I'm able to be able to do this, especially, being older, and that I had the opportunity to accomplish something that I had always wanted to accomplish that got pushed to the side for, 6 years since I left, or 27, however long since I left high school, that my life kind of came back around and I had an opportunity to do something that had been on my goal list. And it's kind of both. I mean, you can't get over the physical pain that comes with the sport, especially, you talk to most 45-year-olds and they'll tell you just waking out of bed, they hear their bones cracking and stuff like that. So, but at the same time, at the end of practice, I feel awesome because I survived another practice. I learned a lot. Every practice, I'm learning a lot. I probably learned the most of the team because it'd been so long since I really wrestled in high school and everything that a lot of the techniques and stuff, they weren't really, it's changed. There was the basics are the basics, but there's kind of new things. And after being out of the sport for a while too, there's certain things I forgot,
it's interesting you brought that up too, because if you think about scrambling, right? Who's the originator of scrambling? Ben Askren.
Yeah.
He kind of created scrambling. I'm going to give him props for that. Cause but prior to Ben Askren, you didn't see guys on their head that caught an ankle and did some kind of crazy flip and scored off of. You just didn't see stuff like that. And so I can imagine, what year did you get out of high school so we can compare this?
So I graduated high school in 1998, and my last match, I graduated high school, and then I did kind of summer freestyle and all that year. And then my last match was in 1999 all the way until 2019. So I didn't have a match for 20 years.
Wow. Dude, I got something great to tell you, though.
Yeah.
You're not alone. I'm going to give Matt Pitts a shout out on this because it relates to you.
Yeah.
Matt Pitts was Bryson's club coach from the time he was like 6 till he was like 13, 14, whatever, like forever. And he wrestled at the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga.
Wow.
He won the Southern Conference back in, I think, 2001 or something like that. And then he was one match out from placing top 8 at the NCAAs. Now, this is back then, right? And coming from UT Chattanooga, that's tough, man. He was like just a North Georgia boy. He's from Calhoun, Georgia, which is like, I don't know, 30 minutes down the road from us. And he opened Grindhouse Wrestling. They're still around in the area. They have a little location in North Georgia, and they have one up at the Macaulay School, private school in Chattanooga. And dude, he told me like 6 months ago, he's like, I'm going to the U.S. Open. I said, okay. I was like, all right. And my partner, Quantal Langford, that I mentioned to you off screen, he won the U.S. Open 2 years ago in the Masters division.
Wow.
And they wrestled together at UTC. Well, I kept Matt, he's the middle school coach at Macaulay. And the high school won state for the first time in like, I don't know, 3 decades or something. I'm just guessing. And he told them before if they won state, he'd go to the U.S. Open. Well, that was a year ago, and he'd had like 6 weeks to train for it or something. He goes, I'll go next year. So he goes to the U.S. Open this year. God bless him, dude. He ends up winning it. Okay?
Wow.
And he's a high-level guy, right? Like even, he's just really good. And I didn't know if he'd win it, but I knew he was going to go out there and abuse senior citizens. I texted him that on and off for months. You're going to go abuse senior citizens. And I watched all his matches. He hit a cartwheel double on somebody in the U.S. Open. And I'm like, dude, you're like 40-something years old. How are you doing this? And then he's in the finals. And it, Vegas time versus East Coast time, like it's off by several hours, 3 or 4 hours. So it's like midnight here or whatever it is. And I'm watching it on the oh, by the way, USA bracketing or whatever. That sucks. They need to fix that. That is the worst streaming platform ever, by the way. Like trying to find like who you're looking for and what mat. And it was a mess. So yeah, I'm going to throw that at USA Wrestling. Go fix it. Anyway, he goes down 10-6. And I think there's like a minute left. He's wrestling a tough dude. And he comes back and wins that match 12-10.
Wow.
And at one point in that match, he gets lat dropped, and it was vicious, bro. And I'm like, dude. And he texted me about it 2 hours after that match, and he goes, yeah, man, I didn't think it was going to be that hard, and I didn't think I was going to feel like I do, but, man, I'm hurting. I said, dude, heal up. I said, that'll never be taken away from you.
Yeah.
You did that forever. And I said, everybody that knows you, you just taught every kid that follows you or to keep fighting.
Yeah.
And I said, dude, that's real life. And I said, much love, brother. He sent me a message back and he's like, I truly appreciate it, man. Love you too. And I was like, what you just did. So I have 2 guys that I'm really connected with that in the past 3 years have won the U.S. Open. Wow. And you're talking about guys from the Southeast, right? So I think, and the South don't get the credit that we deserve, man. We're getting better. Orion Mills just made the world team yesterday. He's a Georgia kid. His brother beat the kid that won the U.S. Open in back-to-back years in like the quarters yesterday. So like the South's getting better. But the reason I told you that story was because before, when I seen you, I never really correlated with people wrestling past like, 25, 26 years old, senior years of college. And then I started seeing your videos and I'm like, bro, this guy's like, what that is? He got a death wish? That's what I was thinking. He got a death wish. And I remember a few years back, when Bryson started wrestling, so he's been wrestling almost 10 years. So like I was 27, 28 when he started, whatever it was. And I used to wrestle with the middle school kids, like the heavyweights and the 215 pounders or, high school, middle school. I'd wrestle with them every now and then. And I remember this one day, and now I'm like 27, 28. And let's put that in perspective. And that's why I told you the Matt Pitt story to give you some inspiration to keep going. But dude, I wrestled with a kid. He just graduated now. He was like in maybe 2 years ago graduated. I think he was in like 7th or 8th grade at the time, but he was like, 180 pounds, big jacked up kid. And dude, he headlocked me in live. And I remember hitting the mat. And I'm like, did I shit myself? Like, I was like, did that happen? And I was like, no. But I felt it. My stomach hurt, my back hurt. And I'm like, yeah, this ain't for me anymore. And I was at like 27, 28. So, dude, you have massive props of respect at 45 years old. But I do want to hear, like, how you got here. Like, let's go back to 1999.
Yeah.
All right. You started 98. You said 98, right?
98, I got I got better at wrestling. I was never a great wrestler.
Where did you go to high school? Where
I went to high school at Covington High School in Covington, Ohio. It's a little town, 2,000 people town, small town, real awesome town. My goal was to go to the state tournament. I wrestled in 7th grade. I didn't wrestle in 8th grade. And then in 9th grade, I wrestled. And in 10th grade, I wrestled. And then at the end of my 10th grade season, I went to a wrestling camp. And I met some people that changed my life. Mike Dehart was one of the coaches there. Coach K was a coach there. And Doug Blueball, who won the Olympics in 1960, was there.
Oh, wow.
And he became all three of those guys. They all became my mentors. And anyways, then at that camp, I found out that you can wrestle all year round. I didn't know that at the time when I was in 10th grade. I wasn't exposed to wrestling like that. So then after that, I started doing more wrestling, and Coach Dehart had a garage where we would go and wrestle in the garage. And that was 3 miles from my house. And I'd met him. So then I would start running to his house to go to practice, after school, before school. And then for those next couple of years, all I did, I really loved wrestling. I even quit baseball my junior year because I was like, oh man, I better wrestle all year round because that's what these guys do who are good. So then my high school season of senior year, I ended up making it to the state tournament. That was my goal. I kind of beat 2 guys who had both pinned me 5 times since freshman year to make it to state.
Awesome.
So I've always been a person who can slowly catch people. I've never been in the lead, but I start cutting the distance, I cut the distance. Okay, they pin me in the first period, next second period, the third period. I can just, and then when and that particular, those last couple of weeks of my senior year, I was just like, I had it together. I don't know, my brain stopped to move, my brain shut off, and it just went. I wasn't overthinking for once in my life. Made it to the state tournament. My dad was 58 years old when I was born.
Oh, wow. Okay.
60 when my little sister was born. So he was an older guy. He was a very prominent man in our area. He was a defense attorney, very well known. And he took me to all the wrestling tournaments, and you know how that is. I'm sure you drive all over the country. We went from Ohio to St. Louis to Michigan to, all these different places, and Virginia Beach we even went to. So
we're going in 2-3 weeks again.
Okay. Yeah. So, the grind is the dad, and, he would go with me. And like I said, I sucked. I would go to these tournaments and I would lose 2 matches, and then we would have to drive, 4 hours back home, or 5 hours or 2 hours, whatever it was. But, and my mom went to pretty much, she didn't go to all the matches, but she went to all the high school matches. She didn't come us with when we went to, St. Louis or whatever. But so it was a big deal when I made state because they were both there. And my sister was there. Everybody was there. And then the following year, my dad died in 1999. And then after that, I didn't wrestle again. And, my dad, yeah. So my dad always said, keep living when I'm gone, keep on living, keep going, keep trucking. He said all of that. And I did keep living. I keep my life going. It just went differently. I just kind of like, I lost that, man. He was my teammate, man. He was my, like they say now, ride or die, right? My dad and I was like, so then, anyways, stopped wrestling, went to California, had a career as an actor and stand-up comedian for 20 years.
Dude.
Yeah. Yeah, I still do stand-up comedy and acting.
Let's hear about that. Talk about that.
Yeah, so what happened was my sister, she was in Miss Ohio. She was 1 point away from winning Miss Ohio.
Oh.
Yeah, that would have been cool. I would have loved to have gone to the Miss America.
I bet, yeah.
That would have been cool. But she did real good. She was very talented tap dancer. And so anyways, she was in a contest called the World Championships of Performing Arts, and I got involved in it, and I won an acting contest. And then I met a bunch of people. It took place in Los Angeles, and I met all these people, and I was taking an acting class at my community college. So when I graduated high school, I went to community college for a year, and my plan was to go there, boost up my grades, and take a year off, buff up a little bit. And then the following year, I was going to wrestle at a place called Capital University in Ohio, which was near Columbus. But instead, I ended up, my dad died. I won this contest, and my acting teacher had a friend in Pasadena, California, who worked wardrobe at Paramount Pictures.
Oh.
I ended up moving into that lady's attic of her house for $300 a month, August for free because it got so hot. And I got to go to Paramount Pictures, where I met some people who were extras on a TV show called Roswell. And then they sent me to Central Casting. And from Central Casting, I started getting extra parts and little bit parts. And then I got an agent, and I was in the business for 20 years. Sometimes I would be an extra. Sometimes I was a stand-in. You stand there for the main actor.
Yeah.
And then every now and again, I would get myself a little part on a commercial or something like that. And when I was 22, I was outside of a nightclub, and me and this guy were talking to these two girls. And he said, I like that one. I said, that's cool. I like them both. And we were laughing, and I gave everybody a piece of gum. That was a trick my dad taught me. Always bring gum with you to share with people. I shared this piece of gum with everybody. And he says, you must not be from LA. You share. I said, yeah, I'm from Ohio. And he was a comedian. And I went to his comedy show, and then he introduced me to the guy who booked amateurs. And so I just, started doing comedy as well. So there I am in California, kind of what they call living the dream, going to these auditions and being in the mix and going to the comedy clubs. And wrestling was still part of my life in a way. I would kind of look at from time to time, see who's going on, check in. We had some great wrestlers at my high school that, were younger than me, of course, but they went on. And whenever I would come back to Covington, Ohio, I would go to Coach Dehart's garage and get a workout in. When I was 31, Coach Dehart's son was going to go to Duke University to wrestle, and we were having a workout in the garage, and his name's Andy Dehart, and he said to Coach later on, and Coach told me this, he goes, I can't believe Brian still get out there and wrestle with us, and and he didn't do too bad. I was like, maybe compared to the high schoolers, I was giving Andy a little more. Plus, I knew Andy since he was a little kid, so he'd probably be a little nicer on me. But that got me thinking. I was 31. I said, well, man, maybe I could do one of these open tournaments, right? And I'm back in California, and one of my buddies there wrestled, and we're watching a football game. And I used to live in this place with my friend, and everybody come over every Sunday, and we'd all watch football games. I'm eating pizza and Googling wrestling tournaments. And I tell my friend, dude, he goes, what you doing? I said, man, I think I'm going to sign up for a wrestling tournament. Dude, you can't do that. You're going to get killed. You're going to wrestle an All-American. I mean, no, you're not going to find any fish at these open tournaments. The only guys still wrestling are tough, man. You can't do that. And I listened to him. I was like, yeah, you're right. I'd get messed up, man. I must be crazy to think I can do that. I'm 31. Okay. Fast forward, how you think I feel now, 45? You know what I'm saying? and also at the time, Forrest Griffin was the light heavyweight champion, and he and I are the same age.
Okay.
So, and when I was 31, I I was running all the time. I would be my workout. I would just wake up. I could run like crazy. I mean, I've run 3 marathons, so I have that stamina. So I thought, well, why couldn't it? And my life was in one of those weird spots too. I was kind of stuck. I didn't know what I was doing quite. I mean, I'm in the business, but that's a brutal business.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So it's a lot. It's just very competitive, and it's a city where people don't ask you, how's your family? They ask you, what's your last job you've had? You see?
Yeah.
So,
what have you done for me lately?
that's exactly right. It's like there's a lot of frenemies in that town, right? They're kind of friends, but they're not, So, anyways, but so this guy kind of scared me out of wrestling. Coming back at 31, maybe it worked out for the better because now I got this whole thing going on. So there I am in California, and then when I was in the year 2018, I think it was. I was down in Lake Cumberland in Kentucky. I was on a boat. They were towing a jet ski. The rope got loose. It comes flying back. I go to catch the rope. It chopped off part of these 2 fingers.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So,
wow.
So, yeah, dude. So now I'm missing these 2 fingers. I'm depressed. By the way, one of my jobs I used to have in California was a hand double. So in movies, when they're this is the irony is just terrible, dude.
That's a thing?
Yes. So okay, so there's a movie called Fast and Furious 7. You've probably seen it. Your sons have seen it. That's halfway through that movie, Paul Walker passed away.
Yes.
Everybody says how great of a guy Paul Walker is. I know that must be true because I was the stand-in for his 2 brothers who filled in the part for Paul in that movie.
That's awesome.
Yes. So that was in 2016. And I had all 10 of my fingers. And what happened was that the business kind of worked in such a way that I was one of these guys that I was getting a lot of work as a stand-in and a photo double, because what happens is my first job was for Matthew McConaughey. And then after that shot my resume up pretty well. So I got a lot of jobs. I'd see like there's like 5 of us guys that were always kind of the same guys that got rotated through this little group called stand-ins and photo doubles. So in Fast and Furious 7, I was a stand-in and I got to be photo double in some of the scenes. My hands were perfect. I had 10 perfect fingers. So in 2018, when my fingers get cut off, I'm not only depressed because I've lost part of my body and it hurts like crazy. Part of my career is gone.
Right.
I mean, I was making decent bread for a job that was, okay, you're going to steer, you're going to shift, you're going to, hold the picture and look at it. Like, they're only using my hands, right? Easy, fun.
Yeah.
You're hanging around like, I got to see Vin Diesel, like, right. Like he's like saying his lines beside me. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm like in the mix, and then finger gone, depressed. And I'm in Ohio, and I go call Coach Dehart, and he says, come to the garage. I come over. He looks at my finger. He goes, it's not that bad. I said, what do you mean, Coach? He said, it could be worse. You could have lost more of them. I said, okay, Coach.
That's a positive way to spin that. I wanted. Can I cut you off for just a second?
Yeah.
This is not on the same level as that at all, but it just popped in my head that you said that, right? Things can always be worse.
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago, Bryson got pinned in the Greco in the finals. He was up at Southeast Regional. He was up 6-0 on an 8-point tech, and he got cocky, and the kid tossed him and put him on his back.
Oh.
And the reason I'm telling you this story because it relates exactly what you're going into. Cody Russell, Sean Russell runs the Minion Training Center we train at today at UTC. His brother used to be there with him. Now he's at what's that school up in Hofstra? He coaches up. He's the assistant at Hofstra up in New York. But Cody at the time was coaching there at Southeast Regional, and he had a way of spinning it. He said, "Dude, it's just a random Greco match, right?" And he made it seem like it was less than it was. He said, "Go win freestyle tomorrow," and he did.
Awesome.
Wrestling coaches, the reason I told you that story, wrestling coaches have a way of minimizing things to make them not seem as big as they actually are. So I completely related to exactly what he said to you. It could be worse, dude. You could miss your hand. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Continue.
Well, that's a great coach you got there, because the minimizing, because you do got to look, even now as an adult, I got to look at things like, losing some matches in the adult tournaments. I got to look at it like, what did I learn? Not how did I mess up? Okay, I should have won that match. I didn't win that match. Why didn't I? Right. And it's not like, and I've been working on that, because even as a grown adult, I'm competitive. Like, you take a loss to the heart, right? So, but coaches, to minimize it, to change your perspective, that's what it's all about. So, yeah.
And that's what he just did for you in that moment. What you just said, you said, hey, man, I'm missing this, and he's like, dude, it could be worse.
Yeah.
There's no other sport, because I was a football guy, and I talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
There's really no other sport on the planet that can spin things in that direction, because there's really nothing as hard as the sport of wrestling. And there's nothing that holds you so accountable, right, to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember times like when I was in high school, we had a kid. I played outside linebacker. We had another kid, or I played defensive end this game. And then we had a kid playing outside linebacker. We had an X call. Never forget this. I'll be 80 years old, still pissed off about it, right? We went to overtime. We were winning 14-0 at halftime. Now, here's how bad our offense was at the high school I went to. I was primarily a defensive player. Our defense was top 10 in the area for points allowed. We were giving up like 7.7 points a game or some crazy shit. But we couldn't score 8. Like, it was brutal. But we had a defensive touchdown, and they actually scored once in the first half. So it was like, hey, we scored 14. We're going to win this game, right?
Yeah.
Then a muffed punt happens. They pick it up. Now it's 14-7. Then I think it was like a pick 6. I think we threw a pick 6. Game's tied. We go to overtime at 14. We get the ball first, kick a field goal. We're up 17-14. All we got to do is stop them for 4 downs. And it starts, 25 going in back then. I don't know what the high school rule is now, but it was like 25 going in, kind of like college. It was 4th down. Going to 4th down. The kid that was my age, he was we were seniors at the time. He broke his forearm on 3rd down, the outside linebacker. So they sent in this sophomore kid. I won't call him out, even though I want to kick him to this day. And there was an X call. I go out, he goes in, right? And we were stuffing that kid. The kid the running back they had was rushing for like 300 yards a game. We held him to 86 that night. And I went out, and he didn't move, touchdown. And we lose that game. And I remember thinking before the snap, and I can't go back, but I remember thinking before the snap, I need to stay put because this kid's an idiot. But I didn't. I did what I was told to do, and it cost us. But I remember thinking, hey, I'm going to blame him, right? I remember that. But, it was a total team effort. Football's a team sport. But I'm blaming. Now, in the sport of wrestling, I ain't got nobody to point at. So there's really no other sport in the world of any kind. I mean, maybe MMA. You can say MMA, right?
MMA, for sure.
It's considered a sport now.
Yeah.
But in general, combat sports are really the only avenue that you can do. Like, you need that you have coaches that are kind of spinning things to keep you going, because it is so hard. In football, they'll just cut you and get somebody else. In baseball, they'll just cut you and get somebody else. When you have somebody that continuously shows up, works hard, that's hard to find.
Yeah.
So I think that's why that spin. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, no, that spin is great, and he said that, and it kind of got me going. And then he said, you need to wrestle again. You need to do a tournament that'll make you, forget about your fingers. I'm like, why, coach? So the rest of my body gonna hurt, and I'm 39 at this point. And my buddy Nick Spatola, he's a wrestling coach in Cincinnati, and he has a tournament called the Spatola Classic. And Coach Dehart said, you need to do Spatola's tournament. And I'm like, I said, okay, I'll do it. He just kind of was like, he pushed me a little bit on it to do it. And then I said, oh, yeah, I'll do it. And I think he was kind of like, is he saying he's going to do it or not? And then I called Spatola and said this, and people are like, are you really going to do it? I said, man, if I say I'm going to do the tournament, I'm going to do the tournament, right? I'm not going to call Spatola and say I'm going to do your tournament and then back out, right? I'm not going to tell D-Hart I'm going to do. So then I was kind of went back to California and worked out, and I did boxing. I wasn't boxing matches, but my friend went to a boxing gym, and one of the places was this place called Wild Card Boxing Gym. That Freddie Roach owns it. He trained Manny Pacquiao, and they let regular schmucks go up there. I had a relationship with them because my comedy show was at a bar near there. So I would go there and work out, jump rope, heavy bag, just try to get my fitness better. Then I found a place in California that had open mats, and I would go there, and this one guy would just destroy me. But I learned something because he was a former college wrestler. But I learned something about myself that I appreciated, was that I kept getting back up. I kept going. And practice he'd be getting bored of me. All right, that's good for the day. Can we go another time? And I never once got even close to scoring on this guy. He was a fantastic wrestler. But I loved wrestling when practicing with this guy. He was so good. And he would just be, all right, that's good. Can we go one more go? So like, I'm going to get crossface. I'm getting beat down, right? And then Spatola tournament came around, and I was working out, and I had a friend named Ishmael Latz, and he was a brilliant filmmaker from Netherlands. And he came to one of my comedy shows, and he said, man, this is a documentary, dude. I want to film a documentary of you and your comedy. I said, yeah, it's pretty good, but I'm about to do a wrestling tournament, and I ain't wrestled in 20 years. I said, I think that's the documentary.
It would be, yeah.
So Ishmael made the documentary, and it's called I Cleaned My Room, because that's a theme in my life with Coach D-Hart. And Ishmael made this beautiful documentary. It's on my YouTube page. It's about 18 minutes long. And Ishmael had cancer at the time, like stage 4, whatever the last stage of cancer is, he had. And he came and he filmed me, and he was a great friend to me. And he told me, we went to Perkins to eat after I made weight for the Spatola Classic. And he said to me, I said, man, I really appreciate you doing this for me. It means a lot, because I was going through a lot of emotions, right? And he said, filming you makes me forget about what I'm going through. So this guy made just the nicest thing anybody could have done for me, was make that documentary. And I went out at age 39. It was an open division, 18 and up. And my first guy just destroyed me. Right? I didn't know what to expect. The match comes up. I'm like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. 20 years since I stepped on the mat, And then I told Coach D-Hart, I said, man, I just want to go the distance the next match. Now that I know what this is, I just don't want to get pinned. And so the next match, I went to distance, and I even scored a takedown at the end. And Ishmael filmed it all. So then I was like, okay, man, I'm going to keep doing this Spatola Classic once a year. I said, I want to win a match. That's my next goal. I want to win a match. So I go to Spatola Classic the next year. I get beat twice. All right, let's go back. The next year, I get beat the first match, but it was close. Okay. And it's still age group 18 and up. Now I'm like 41, right? So the next match, I win. My single leg was working. I win a match. I tell this young guy, Caleb Ryman, he goes to Covington Schools where I went, and he's filming my matches for me. And he said to me, I said, I think I'm going to retire now. He said, you can't retire. You could still get third place. I said, okay, I can get third place. Okay.
Terry Brands told Matt Pitts used to preach this, that Terry Brand said, get the next best thing.
Ooh, I like that.
Always get, if you can't win it, what's the next best thing?
Okay.
And I love that spin that kid said, hey, you can still get third. Hey, next best thing.
Yeah. So, because I was thinking, okay, if I just win one match, I retire. No, you can still get third. Okay, you know what? I keep going. Then I wrestled the next match, and I pulled something in the front part of your leg, the big meaty part.
Yeah.
I pilled something in that, and I was limping for a month after that match. I was like, maybe I should have retired after I said that, right? I mean, retired from something I've never been paid to do, but
Right, yeah.
so, like, that's cost me money. I probably would. So the next year they switched it up. They gave Spatola did a 35 and up age group. I'm like, okay, so there was like 3 guys at 35 and up. I got second place, right? Then the next year I got second place, and then the next year I got second place, and then last year or the following year, meanwhile, 2020 hits, right? So I'm doing Spatola tournament once a year, right? It's only a 3-minute period, right? So it's nothing much. Meanwhile, the next year, COVID hits and the world gets shut down, and I'm stuck in California, which was the very worst place you'd want to be during that time.
Oh, I can imagine, dude. Yeah.
So without going too much into it, it totally sucked, and I just didn't. It didn't suit me what they were doing there.
Right.
So I wanted to come back to Ohio where people are a little more grounded, normal, and
yeah. You can say it. Hey, I get it.
Yeah. So the California really was on the wrong side of history on that. Let's just put it that way.
Absolutely.
They were on the wrong side of history, and if you didn't do exactly what they said, they were making your life a living hell.
Yeah, it was like that in New York too. Like my boss that in the train where CATV, the other business I told you about I'm in.
Yeah.
He lives on Long Island. And he told me some awful stories during that time. Like they were threatening like nurses. If you don't get his stepdaughter is a nurse up there in Long Island, and said, look, if you don't get the COVID vaccine, you're going to lose your job. So I thought in a way, like I never got the vaccine. I'll say it publicly. And if people don't like me, I don't care. I never got it. I still blame the vaccine for the death of my mother, like to this day. My mother passed away it'll be 3 years ago in January. So like 2.5 years ago. And she told me in October, she was already kind of in a wheelchair, she was overweight, had diabetes, a lot of bad things. But she told me in like October that she was going to get the COVID vaccine. And I said, Mom, you live in an apartment that nobody comes to except for me and the boys, and Dad will come visit you from time to time. You're not around people. You're isolated. How the hell you think you're going to get COVID? Like, really? You can't drive. You can't walk. So how are you going to get COVID? Oh, I just want to be safe. Mom, don't do it. I told her over and over, don't do it. A week later, she called me after she did it. Her nurse lady had came and gave her the COVID vaccine. 3 weeks after that, she's in a coma in the hospital. She just fainted, fell over. She came out of the coma, and I'm like, that's one tough old bitch. That's what I was thinking to myself. Like, she's from Ohio. I told you that off camera, right?
Yeah.
Man, they don't make them like they used to, right? Like, and she's in the hospital, and she wakes up, and she knows who she is and where she is, and she starts bitching like she always did. And so I need a Diet Coke. All right, we'll get you a Diet Coke, Mom. And I was like so thankful. I'm like, she's okay. Well, I drove. She was living about 2 hours from me, and I would drive about an hour and a half. I drove up, and I was up there, and then I had to go home, right? Bryson had school, and Zach, my other son, they had school and stuff, and wrestling practice and life and work. And about three weeks after that, she never really got out of the hospital. She kept going like up and down, up and down, up and down, and then they moved her to a nursing home. And in the nursing home, I talked to her on a Thursday. She was only there for like 6 days, and then she died on a Thursday. And she said, because she was really immobile, I couldn't have taken care of her. Nobody, you would need a lot of help, She was actually getting to the point apparently where she was like defecating on herself and didn't know it. Like her body was just shutting down. And I remember she called me and she said, dude, son, whatever she called me back then, asshole, whatever it was. I need you to bring me my toiletries. I need an electric toothbrush. I said, Mom, I'll buy you the best damn electric toothbrush money can buy. And I did. I bought like a $37. I still got it in a box, right? This was on a Thursday. I was supposed to go see her Saturday morning. She died Friday at 5.
Wow.
And so I never did get up there. And I kept saying that, from the time she got there on Monday, that I'm going to be there Saturday. And it's crazy. I learned a lesson there that time don't always, you don't always have time.
Yeah, that's right.
That was a hard lesson to learn. But I still blame, because she wasn't in great health, but she wasn't sick. And she got that shot and she just went downhill. So, and that was you remember Johnson & Johnson had a recall. And it turns out that Johnson & Johnson, that was the shot that she got. So I'm convinced of it. And the only reason I know that is because when she died, the nursing home gave me all her paperwork. And in her paper, I read through all of it. And it showed like her had like immunization dates dating all the way back to like 1960 or whatever it was.
Wow.
And it showed like 2022 or whatever, October 2022, whatever it was. Johnson & Johnson CVD vac is what it was or whatever. And so I never got it, right? And there's people out there that's going to hear me talk about this, be like, oh, screw that guy. But here's the thing. When you got states like New York and California, and there's probably several others, but those are the two main ones.
Yeah,
that are threatening people's jobs from putting things in your body. Like, to me, that I don't know where in that point in time you can say this is a free country.
Right, it's not,
because like literally, if I want to drink a beer, I'm going to drink a beer, right? But you can't make me drink a beer,
right?
Right. So if I want to drive my car, I'm going to go drive my car, but you can't force me to drive my car. If I want to walk down the street, that's my God-given right. It's the same difference with the COVID vaccine. So I feel like I can't imagine what it was like for you to live out there during that, because, dude, I'm telling you what, I'm a little very outspoken, and I'm the greatest guy in the world. I swear I am. I would give you the shirt off my back. I love everybody. I don't care if you're black, white, green, blue. If you're nice to me, I'm nice to you. I don't care what your orientations are. Like, I love everybody. But just, dude, that to me, that's retarded. Like, I'm going to say it. That's just stupid. And I would react in a very bad way if I was in that predicament. And people would think, man, he's a fucking bad, screw that guy. But in reality, it's like you had the demographic of people. And I didn't mean to get political here, but I just think it was worth talking about.
I like it, man.
I think this demographic of people that were like, and I'm just going to throw this out here, that were pissed off over the COVID thing. And when you see people in 2025 still wearing masks is the dumbest shit I've ever seen.
Crazy.
Like, even wearing masks in the beginning was stupid.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, I got in Chattanooga, Tennessee. All right. I'm basically from Chattanooga, Tennessee. I live in Ringgold, Georgia, which is about 10 miles south, 12 miles from downtown Chattanooga.
Okay. And,
dude, like, I could almost spit over the state line, right? Like, that's how, I mean, not really, but close, And there was a pizza place downtown during COVID. And I went, and this is how nutty this got, right? But the reason I'm bringing this up is because the demographic of people that took things this way were so small, but the media made it out like this was the whole country.
Yeah.
And obviously you've seen with this last election, that was not the case.
Right.
And I'm not endorsing Trump or, I did vote for him, and I'll say that out loud, but like, Kamala Harris was an idiot. So like
absolutely.
it is. But with that being said, I walked into a pizza place. I took my sons. They were little at the time. I mean, not little. They were 14 and 15 now. So 4 years ago. Yeah, they were still kind of small. I guess they were kids. And we went downtown, because downtown they used to have a rock climbing gym. I think it's still there. It was called High Point, and we used to go in there and just rock climb. Right? It was really fun, and it was something cheap you could do and kill a day. It was like $10 a person, and then you had that pass all day, and you could go eat and come back, and like it was pretty cool. And they had one. I couldn't believe Bryson did it. It was like 7 stories high. And he got to the top. I was so proud of him. He's like 3 foot tall. And I was like, that's so cool, man. But We went to this place called Loopy's Pizza. I've never stepped foot in this place again since then, and I think it's like a vengeful thing. And they may have the best pizza in the world, and it's breaking my heart because I got a dad bod and I like pizza, right? But I walk in there, and they got like, you know how most restaurants have like the spread apart, the tables, there's one, and then it's kind of catty corner from another one, kind of throughout. Well, they had families sitting there eating, and they were about a table apart, right? So you had like, mom, dad, kids, and then an empty one, and then mom, dad, kids, and then an empty one. And it was like catty cornered, like if you understand that, that's a redneck term, but crooked. Okay, yeah, that's a redneck Southern thing. I said that to my buddy from Maine. He's like, "What are you talking about?" Yeah. But anyway, and I stand in line. Now, granted, before I tell you this, nobody in that restaurant had a mask on. Okay, let me say that first. Okay. All these people, of course, you can't eat with a mask on, but nobody even had one like on their chin or nothing. So I'm in line, and the girl there goes, "You have to put a mask on." I said, "I don't have a mask." She says, "You don't have a mask?" I was like, "No." What? Well, that's dangerous. You could be killing us.
Oh my God.
I was like, I just want pizza. I literally was like, I just want to get some pizza. Well, I will not serve you until you have a mask on. And I was like, all right, where's your manager? So then we went from, I'm trying to think of the nicest way to put this. All right, you had like little liberal Hitler, and then I ended up with like Queen liberal Hitler.
Okay.
That's the best way to put it. And here she came, stomping, bam, bam, bam. And, you can spot these people, right? I knew when she turned the corner from the pizza oven, I was like, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
This ain't going to go well.
Yeah.
And she said, "Sir, you must wear a mask." I said, "Can I ask just an honest question?" "Yes, if you're talking that direction. You can't talk in my direction."
Oh, my God.
And I was thinking, okay, well, I'm going to ask a question. So I turned sideways, and I was facing the tables that I was asking about anyway. And I said, "None of these people have masks. Are they killing you too?" Like, I need an honest answer here. Well, they're eating. They can't wear a mask when they eat. I said, doesn't matter. If they're killing us with this virus, it's still being blown in the air. You're going to die too. And this woman, her eyes got big, like she just hit her like, "Oh God, I might get sick and die." And I'm like, she goes, "Well, I won't serve you till you put a mask on." And I said, "That's okay. You know who will? Smoky Bones next door." So we went next door to the barbecue place, and me and the boys ate like ribs and shit. And I'm like, and as I'm walking out, I'm like, all you're doing is costing your business money that pays your salary.
Yeah.
That's all that's happening. You're costing your company that you work for that pays your bills. You're costing them money. And if the owner of this business knew what you're saying to these people, unless they're one of you, which I think money trumps liberal, right? I think that they would be very unhappy. And she goes, "Well, you can call my district." "I ain't calling nobody. Kiss my ass. I'm going to eat fucking ribs." And I did. And that was in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Yeah. Wow.
So you're talking about, and that's just one instance, right? But whenever you talk about the liberal states, like I can imagine how bad that would really get, right?
Yeah. It was brutal. I mean, I left before the vaccine. I left on May 13th of 2020, and I remember that day because May 14th the economy was supposed to open up. And then the lowlife governor of California on May 13th said, "I'm going to keep the economy closed one day before it's supposed to open up." So, it was a racket. And I'm sitting in that little apartment I have. It's like $1,200 a month for, basically nothing. And I'm like, I'm out of here. I said, I don't know. It just kind of was like, I'm done. I don't want to play this game. I don't want to get yelled at, like you said, for walking my dog without a mask on out. I'd walk my dog outside without a mask on and people would yell at me. I'm like, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to punch somebody in the face if this continues.
Yeah.
So,
ridiculous. Yeah.
It's like I'm inches away. Every time you go into the grocery store, there's a conflict. There's this, and it's just ridiculous. I'm looking around like I don't see people falling over. I don't see people. I don't have so I just was like, I'm out. I moved back to Ohio. And then I fell back in love with Ohio. I fell back in love. I missed, I felt like, dude, this is where I'm from. This is, I had a great run in California, and now it's not the same as it was when I went, or even the same as it was 6 months ago. So I'm like, okay. And so I kind of would go to Coach Dehart's house and work out and do wrestling. That's the cool thing about the wrestlers. They kept going. We're still wrestling, Matt in the garage, working out. Oh, yeah, this is, oh man, this is bull crap what they're making us do here, man. Oh, nice double leg, so like, so then I go to visit my sister who was living in St. Petersburg. And I had a dream that I was wrestling in college. This was just bizarre. I woke up and there was tears in my eyes, just a couple, kind of crying a little bit. And across from me was a picture of my dad. She had a picture of our dad that faces the couch that I slept on at her apartment. And I was like, my first thought was, man, I'll never wrestle in college. Right. And meanwhile, when I went back to Covington, Ohio, my hometown, I started taking online classes at Edison, where I left when I was 19 years old, that I was going to in that year off.
So you started back like 25 years later.
Yeah. I was like, okay, Hollywood is crumbling. I'm not getting along with the people there. They want me to wear a mask and take a vax, and I'm not going to do it. So I've got to find a new what the heck I'm doing with my life, because what I've been doing for 20 years isn't. I didn't leave Hollywood. Hollywood left me.
Yeah, there you go.
I didn't leave Hollywood. Hollywood left me. I'm not going to conform to this little way, and I'm not going to agree with their crazy ideology to get a job. That's just not what I'm going to do.
I love that, man, because you know how many people would bow down for money?
Oh, they did. They did.
Oh, my God. Yeah, dude. That just shows your character, and I have much respect, my friend. Continue.
Yeah, well, and on that point too, man, I got ostracized by a lot of the comedians, and I'm like, wait a minute, we make our money with our mouth, and you want me to cover it up?
Yeah.
And now that the tide has turned and the truth has come out, a lot of these people who trashed me for what I said in 2020 are now flipping sides because they see where the money is. That's hard to take.
Look at Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, exactly. You can't trust that guy worth nothing, man.
And I'm going to post a clips from this on his platforms, but continue.
Yeah, let's hit him. And then, so I go to, I'm back. I'm my sisters. I have this dream that I'm wrestling in college. Like, this is bizarre. Like, why would I have that? And then I was like, meanwhile, I'm at community college taking online classes. After that dream, I stood up off the couch. I grabbed my computer that I got right here, this nice Apple computer, okay, whatever. I Google oldest college wrestler. Several articles pop up of different guys in their 40s who had done it. I was 42 at the time. One of the articles was a 42-year-old guy. I found out that there was another guy, I think he went to Case Western, has an amazing story. Dude was 45, like I am. And now I was 42 when I opened the computer that day. And he weighed like 300 and almost 400 pounds. And he saw his old coach, who was now a college coach. And the coach told him, if you can drop down to 275 pounds, I'll put you on the team. And the guy did it. And he got to wrestle. And yeah, that's a story, dude.
That's
I don't know.
awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, so I was like, okay. So then I was like, so the oldest guy who did it was 45. I'm 42. I was like, well, that's possible. Okay. It's possible. Okay. So then I kind of was in my sister's kitchen shadow wrestling, nobody was around, but I started getting my stance, working my head taps. Right? I'm like, okay, I go to the gym. I'm like, it's possible. Right. And my thing now I say is you only need those two words. It's possible. As long as it's possible, it's possible. Right. You don't know how it's going to happen. How the heck? And I told my sister, I'm thinking like, there's been done before. I tell my mom and they're both, oh, okay. They know me. They know I might actually try it. And then the following year I go wrestle at Spatola's, and then last year at this time I got my degree from Edison for 2-year degree online. And there was a tournament in this town called Urbana, and it's called Wrestle Against Autism. And
I've been to Urbana, Jeff Jordan State Champ Camp.
Yeah, that's right.
We go every summer.
Okay, well then you gotta come by and say what's up because I live by there. That's
you live by Urbana?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Dude,
yeah.
we're gonna have to get together and have a beer, man.
Yeah. Oh, definitely, man. Definitely. Yeah, that's my neck of the woods. I used to go to Jordan's on what was it? I think Tuesday and Thursday nights when I was in high school.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So my best friends was a 3-time state champion from there, actually. So
Graham.
From Graham. Yeah, from Graham.
Yeah.
So so I go to this tournament in Urbana, and mind you, only tournament I'd ever done was Spatola, and now I'm like, okay, I'm going to do 2 tournaments this year instead of 1 tournament. And I go to Urbana, and when I'm in Urbana at the tournament, one of the other adult wrestlers says, yeah, the Defiance College is bringing back their wrestling team. And I'd always heard of Defiance because they always had good wrestling teams. Like a couple of the guys that went to my high school went and wrestled at Defiance. And I said, really? And then I thought about that dream, right? I was like, really? They're bringing back their team, right? And I say, maybe I could get on the team. And the guy kind of looks at me like, and rolls his eyes and kind of walks away like, dude, what the heck are you talking about, dude? You're not even beating these old dudes, right? I got second place at that tournament of adults that day, but he say, so I went, I was like, well, I do want to get my other finish up my 4-year degree, right? I already got 2 years done. Maybe I can get the next, maybe I can try out. And I went to the college. I took a walk around the college. I got the coach's number. I called the coach. I said, Coach, my name's Brian Swinehart. Went to voicemail. I'm Brian Swinehart. I'm a little older, but I'd like to try out for the team. And he called me back. He said, by a little older, what do you mean? I said, well, I've seen your videos on YouTube. I'm older than you. He graduated high school. I graduated high school in 1998. He was born in 1998. So
that's your wrestling coach now.
Yeah, he's the youngest wrestling coach. He's only like 26 years old. He gave me the opportunity, and in life, that's all you can ask for is an opportunity.
Right.
You know, he gave me the opportunity, and I try not to slow down the team at all. I mean, when we run sprints, I'm last place usually. You know, maybe the heavyweights there with me a little bit, one of the heavyweights, right? But I'm behind in the sprints. But the thing is, I leave every practice knowing that I didn't hold anything back, right? You can lack skill, you can lack speed, you can lack talent, but what you can't do is leave anything back. Right. You can't not put it all out there. If I go out and leave it all on the mat, like those singlets that you showed me earlier, say leave it on the mat, if I go out there and leave everything at the practice that I have in me, I can walk with my head up, even if I got pinned every single time, even if I got taken down every single time, even if I came last in every sprint, even if I can't squat as much as anybody else, even if everybody's squatting 100 pounds more than me, even if my bench press isn't as good, as long as I went out and gave everything I had, that's all I can do. There's no magic way for me to catch up on some of these things, There's no magic way for me to all of a sudden be as fast as these guys, but I can go out and give myself the best thing I can do, right? Some of these guys, you look at some of the matches that you've seen online, probably. I mean, there's like, you look at it and there's no way I'm going to win. You just look at it, and anybody watching the match, like, oh, dude, this guy, go to mat 4. You ever seen anybody die before? Go to mat 4. Look at this guy on mat 4. What the hell? That's why in my matches, there's like people circled around. Like, I'm like, dang, man, I wish this many people would come to my comedy shows, right? So
that's all.
It's like, dude, they just circled around the mat, dude. I'm like, man, And by the way, none of these guys are like gonna take it easy on me either. That's the other thing. People are like, well, I'm like, dude, nobody wants to. They're gonna. It's like they're wrestling at 45.
It's like yesterday. I was watching. There's a girl that's just a stud from Cleveland, right?
Okay.
She graduated now. Cleveland High School up in Cleveland, Tennessee. They're a powerhouse. They've won like 9 straight boys state championships and like 3 in a row with the girls. They've had a program for girls like 4 years now. And I think the first year they got 3rd, and then they went on a run. But there's a girl up there. She's graduating now. Like all their studs, I think, are graduating. They're going to be rebuilding, but they have such a good youth. They have a feeder program for girls that had like 60 kids in it.
Oh, that's
like,
great.
So they're going to reload, right? But
yeah, that's impressive.
But one of them was there in the boys wrestling the boys yesterday, and she lost, I think, in the semis or something in freestyle. And now you're talking about 9th to 12th grade, right? Now she's a senior. She's like got to be 18, I guess, right? And she got beat by a sophomore boy. And I told somebody, I said, boys will wrestle harder to not lose to a girl. I said, dude, I'm telling you, like, you don't want to lose to a girl. And it's not and here's the greatest thing. Bryson had a rivalry with a girl for a while from Ohio, Lyric Hitzer. She's a stud, dude. He beat her 4-3 at Tyrant Duels up in the Hall of Fame Duels in Ohio, and she beat him 4-3 at VAC.
Wow.
So it's like, but he, you fight to try not to lose to a girl, and that's the same thing for you, though, right? Like those boys are going to do everything they can not to lose to a 45-year-old dude.
Oh yeah, dude, it's the same. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. It is the same thing, and yeah, it's totally the same. And so I know that going into matches, and I have my moves that I did back in the day that I still, work or whatever. But yeah, so I got lucky enough to get on the team, or fortunate enough. I don't even think it's luck. I mean, I put myself in the right place. I took a chance. I took a chance. I even had the same guy who told me not to wrestle when I was 31 try to talk me out of it now, going into college. And the story from earlier. I see him again.
Yeah.
I tell him, yeah, dude, I'm gonna wrestle in college. Dude, you can't do that. You can't. What? No. What about your career? What about you're And by the way, I had a wife and got married over that time, and then I had a baby on the way. Well, you got a wife and you're going to have a kid and you're going to go you can't do that. I told myself, dude, he gave me bad advice before. I'm not listening again.
Right.
And there is, and I thought about a couple of those things. I thought about my career, like, dude, what if, I will be not focused on it that much, but it ain't hurt it at all. If anything, more people be interested to see the comedy show, because wrestling's what I talk about in the comedy show, right? Part of it.
Well, there's that one comedian that's really, I forget his name, but he wrestled. His dad was like a wrestling coach, and is he from Ohio or Pennsylvania or somewhere?
I think he's from
Iowa.
Yeah, it depends. There's a couple wrestlers. There's Greg Warren.
Warren, that's him. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
I've seen his clips on that, and he's like, dude, he puts a spin on it that is so relatable to the everyday person.
Yeah.
And I think that's what, because, wrestling's a very niche thing, right?
It really is.
So if you can relate it to the regular individual. So like, I try to do that with social media sometimes to catch other eyeballs. Mm-hmm. Like I made this stupid video a while back that had like Randy Orton, like RKO and somebody. And it was like, his gimmick on WWE's like out of nowhere or whatever. And it has the guy like smiling, and it's like made weight, and then he gets RKO'd or whatever it says, pulling a state champ round 1, right? But there's a lot of people that know what WWE is that don't know what amateur wrestling is, so it's still related to what our niche is, but it's trying to catch a different demographic of people. Yeah. So I feel like that if you can do that with a comedy show, dude, especially with so many influencers now, right, in wrestling, Caden Henschel and Muggsy, and like, I'm just going to throw out names like AJ Ferrari's got a huge following, right? Mm-hmm. Like mm-hmm. There's all these guys, right? All these dudes. And I feel like, and there's pages like Wrestlers Grind, and there's like Just Wrestlers and Obsessed Wrestlers. And there's all these Instagram pages that are just blown up because there is a need and a want for wrestling content, right?
Yeah.
I feel like there's a niche there, man, that what would be so awesome. I thought about this as we've been talking. You would be freaking perfect for it. Everybody does these skits, right? Like we do some stupid ones. Like the other morning, Bryson's about to go to school, and I'm like, hey, I got this idea. You want to record this? He's like, yeah, sure. So I was like, all right, we're going to POV heading to school during the season. He's about to walk out the door. Hey, man, you got your wrestling shoes? Crap. So he goes and gets his shoes. Hey, man, you got your knee pad? Crap. And he goes back. Hey, man, you got your singlet? And he throws his stuff down. And he goes and gets it. And I go, hey, man, where's your headgear? He goes, he throws it all behind him. He walks away. He's like, I'm not even going to practice. And so it's just little stuff like that. But I feel like with you having comedy skills, like we don't have any comedy skills. We're two redneck guys from North Georgia, dude. We don't, we just play with ideas. And I'm the type that throws everything at the wall, right?
That's good.
I constantly will throw anything at the wall. We did one the other day that I thought was going to blow up, and it was if Darth Vader wrestled. And we used a Snapchat filter of Darth Vader's helmet, and Bryson's wearing an Alabama singlet we had made with some team gear, like a University of Alabama singlet. And it's got the Imperial March in the background, and he puts his hand out and his shoes fly over to him, right? And then he goes to gets on the scale and says, you're 2 pounds over. And then he puts his hand out and it says, cough, cough. You made it, right? Like you remember in Star Wars, he would like choke people out without touching them. And then the next scene, it goes, you got pinned, and his head spins around, and it's like, and he goes, I don't accept this decision. And he uses it like his hand to raise his own hand with the ref. And he goes, I don't accept this decision. And then the next scene, he the ref's like, but dude, you lost. And he like throws at him, and we did it where he got blown backwards, right? Like from Darth Vader. And I thought it was like really quirky, funny, and it didn't do as well as I thought it would. I thought it was kind of cool. So like,
yeah, sounds awesome.
It was pretty neat. So like, I just we think of outside the box things that are like just to try to engage with the audience that we want to reach. And I think you would be perfect, man, for doing like wrestling skits, right?
Yeah,
like,
I'd love to.
There's a group of kids, man. I interviewed them like maybe 3 months ago. They wrestled Division II up in Wisconsin, and one of their dads was a pro wrestler.
Wow.
He never made it to, I think he did like maybe like jobber matches or something for WWE.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what he said, but he wrestled on like the independent circuit for like 40 years, as he said. So they had like this, like he's a big fan of pro wrestling, right? Which is cool, right? Like everybody likes WWE.
Oh, yeah.
So, I was actually pretty entertained by WrestleMania this year. I actually watched it, With that being said, his buddy there, they met in college, and his dad was the one kid's dad was the WWE guy or the pro wrestler. And he's like, dude, you guys are so funny together. Just start recording it. And they got a good little niche following now. And they do stupid stuff. Like there was a guy, one of their teammates was like, I like apples and bananas. And it says, when you wrestle the kid that smells like, and it had the shit sign. And it's just random off the wall stuff, right? But it's funny. And after a few months, like I kept seeing these, and I messaged him. I was like, dude, how did y'all get into this? And I asked questions, and I sent him a set of Matt Clash, and they said, dude, we'd like to be on your show. I was like, dude, I don't really have a show. I'm like on episode 14 or something, right? So I was like, but yeah, dude, we can sit and talk. And we did, and it was really cool. And they kind of carved out a niche there. Look them up. They're WWE wannabes, I think is what it is on Instagram.
Okay, cool.
And it's really funny. They wrestle at like some Division II school in Wisconsin. I had it written down, but I've done a million of those since. But I feel like in your situation, you got to, and I think that would be valuable for your college too, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping to, get some positive, to help them build up the team. And, I want the sport to grow in general, and of course I want my college to grow the most because they gave me an opportunity. Yeah. And, but yeah, I just feel like, the sport is somewhat misunderstood. Wrestling, our sport, that people, it's a little hard for people that aren't into it to follow the score a little bit. It's also kind of slow moving, right? It's individual. So one of the things I think is difficult is you might be at a tournament for 4 hours to watch whoever you're there for to watch, 3 or 4. Your son might get in a 4-hour day, 3 or 4 matches, right? So that's kind of difficult, and just kind of like people see it and they don't understand it. So I don't know. I just want it to be more, because like you were saying earlier, it's such a disciplined sport that teaches so many lessons, and it's a sport that you can't blame people on, right? Like you said, if the play gets messed up, well, if something happens and if I get taken down, that's my fault. I can't point at anybody else and say, well, it's your fault I got taken, other than the guy who took me down, and that's his job, right?
Yeah.
Every now and again, a ref can make a call that's questionable, but then again, we've all had that happen to us. We get called that they took us down, but then sometimes it works in your favor. So
we just went through that a few weeks ago at NHSCA. I just want to bring that up. I'm still both me and Bryson are still pissed about it.
Yeah.
He went 6-2 out there in freshman nationals.
Oh, cool.
He wrestled some kid from Connecticut. The kid was so big, and he wrestled him in the quarters. Like, he won like 3 in a row. He wrestled this kid from Connecticut in the quarters, and he walks around about 28, right, ish, and he went 23, which was 120, right. So it wasn't a hard cut. For him, he made it hard because he was like 2 pounds over when he got there, so he had to roll around in a sauna suit. But that's his own fault. But I watched this match, and the kid's up 4-0, and he blasted the piss out of that kid for, I don't know, 3 periods. And he just could not. This kid cut so much. He was so big. It was like wrestling Andre the Giant. Well, anyway, he drops that match, but the score, I think it was like 12-8. Like, he was down like at one time 7-1, and he battled back. He ended up taking him down a couple times. And I was like, dude, you wrestled tough, bro. I don't know. Don't be upset. But he's like, man, I wanted to get in the finals. I was like, well, now next best thing. Remember I mentioned that earlier.
I like that, next best thing.
What's the next best thing? He goes, well, I'm going to go get third. I said, by God, let's do it. And, dude, he went on a run the next day. And he's 1 match out from All-American, okay? 1 match out. He gets the first takedown, and it looked relatively easy. Like, he blasted this kid. He kind of messed up at one point. He cut the kid in the second, all right? He should have just rode him out. The kid was big, but he should have threw boots in and just whatever he needed to do to ride him out. But in the third period, he gets a takedown. The kid's flat on his back. Now, it was quick. I don't think he'd have got back points, but if you watch the clip back, he did take him down. And he didn't get the takedown. And then should have been takedown reversal because the kid ended up on top. Should have been 3-2 in that sequence. But he didn't get it, and they gave that kid the takedown, and he lost 5-3. And, dude, I was pissed. He was pissed. He's like, dude, I was 1 match out.
Yeah.
And he goes, and I told somebody yesterday, I was like, I think I was talking to our coach. I think it might have been our Team Mac Clash coach. And one of them, and I was like, dude, I would have been happier if he would have got tech falled, because then at least there's no doubt.
Yeah.
Right? Like, nobody wants to get tech falled, but if you get tech falled, it's like, okay, there's no doubt you lost that match.
Yeah.
But when it's that close, even it was TJ, that's what I was talking about, one of the minion coaches yesterday at that freestyle tournament. I said, dude, I was like, if you look at this, and he watched the clip, and he's like, that was the match I didn't get to coach him in because we were coaching some other kids across the gym. He said, yeah, I'd have fought the piss out of that. He said, that was 3. I said, yeah, I think so too. But, it's one of those, that's hard to take, right? But when you're talking about the sport and the rules and understanding it, I feel like that's where Mac Clash can really help people. We literally had a conversation about a year ago with, have you ever looked up Ironclad Methods? No, they're in Alabama. They have a huge social media following, like 150,000 followers or something.
What's it called? Ironclad
Methods. They got a club down in Alabama. He's a real nice guy. And right when I released Wave 1 of Mac Clash, he said, dude, this is a teaching tool. He literally messaged me, and then we got on a call, and he said, you never thought of it that way? I said, not really. I thought about, the point behind it was we spent 4 hours in between matches at Super 32 one year in the middle school division. We got a bye. So we warmed up at like 8. We didn't wrestle our first match till 1. Then we didn't wrestle our next one till like 3. Then we didn't wrestle. It was like these big gaps. And everybody, and you know how it goes, man. You start zoning out. Like it sucks, right? And I was like, how can we keep engagement in between like match weights? And that's where the original concept came from. So I was never thinking about like, hey, we can teach people how to wrestle with this. And then I tested that theory. I got an uncle. He's a Vietnam vet. He's crazy. He grows pot in his backyard. You know, that kind of guy. But I literally like sat down with him at his kitchen table, and I taught him how to play Mat Clash. And within about 15 minutes, he goes, okay, you got a takedown so I can reverse it, escape, or defend it, right? I was like, yeah. And a defense is what? I said, it's like a sprawl. And then I showed him a video of a sprawl, right? Somebody sprawling. He said, oh, that makes sense. So in our game, you know, we're in neutral, start to match. The 10th card draw you pull, right? And the highest valued card goes first. So if I throw a takedown, you can defend it. It goes in the gate pile like you sprawled and got away. Or you can escape back to neutral, or you can reverse it, be on top, force me to get off bottom. So I never really thought about it, but I was teaching him, and I was like, that's the transition of a folk style wrestling match. He goes, dude, that's interesting. And then we started talking about it. He's like, okay, so when they're on all fours, you know, this is what you do here. I was like, yeah. So it was very kind of a quick process. And I started thinking to myself, I'm like, if I can teach my 81-year-old uncle the basic scoring system of the sport of folk style wrestling in a matter of under 20 minutes with a card game, I feel like that's valuable.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because now when you got like, you know, little Johnny comes home with a flyer that, hey, mom, dad, I want to do this. They have wrestling at my school. Okay, awesome. All right. But mom don't know anything about it, right? Dad never wrestled. He was he plays golf and bangs his secretary or whatever the hell he's doing. Yeah. I should do comedy too, maybe.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm just kidding. But like, they don't have any kind of like idea what it is, right? So it's like, okay, I can play this card game, understand it. So when I actually do go to watch little Johnny try to wrestle, I understand what's happening. Like Cody Rhodes tells the greatest story about Dusty Rhodes, right? Because, you know, Cody Rhodes was a 2-time state champ in Georgia.
I didn't know that.
He was, yeah. He placed like 4th and something as a sophomore. And the story goes, he told Diamond Dallas Page. You know, Diamond Dallas Page was, he does yoga and stuff now, but he was pro wrestler. Him and his dad were like real good buddies. He said, I'm going to win the state tournament. And he said, that's bold, young man. But he did 2 years in a row. He won, I think, 171 and 189, or maybe 189 twice. I don't know, something.
Wow.
But he used to tell the story about how Dusty Rhodes had no idea what the scoring was. So he would throw 2 up at any given time. And he said, like, he had no idea, like, the actual score. And he was just like, oh, that's 2, right? He'd throw 2 up. So, like, I feel like that there's value in trying to educate like parents that could educate other parents and friends and cousins and things to actually enjoy the sport.
Yeah.
Like if I was watching baseball and I didn't understand there's 9 innings and I didn't understand that you can throw a double play or whatever, it's kind of dumb.
Right. Yeah.
The only thing that makes sense is, hey, I'm sitting here and there's people and it's loud and I can drink beer. Wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But understanding the sport of baseball makes the baseball interesting. Oh, dude, it's a 3-2 count, bottom of the 9th. There's a guy on 3rd. He's got to get a base hit here. You know, something you got to understand it, right? So I feel like if we can do that through this game we're building for wrestling fans and our wrestling families, right? And I feel like that's valuable because how many kids can we keep into the sport of wrestling based on simply educating the adults that don't know? And that's another reason we're pushing this, like these dual teams. You know, I think it's going to be fun, and it's going to kind of be like more of a Southeast kind of thing, which is cool, right? But I think that the thing with dual teams is, especially at the youth, middle school, high school level, you got these coaches that always want the number one kid, right? And I want the kids that I care about everybody. Like yesterday, we're taking, like I told you, a high school team to Deep South in Birmingham in August. And I was looking at weights yesterday. I had like 6 weights I needed to fill before we could start getting payment and registering our team and stuff. And I was like, I went around and there was a kid we've wrestled a few times. Tough little kid from Sonoraville was up there yesterday. I said, hey, can you wrestle 20 for me in August? Yeah, cool. I think he placed 3rd at state last year, which was cool, right? Tough kid. And then Jackson Lane, I love that kid, man. He was Bryson's rival growing up. Like they would like kill each other as little kids. They'd have blood running out of their face and stuff. Now Jackson's a lot bigger than he is. But I said, hey, dude, you want to wrestle 32 for me in August? He goes, yeah, I'll do it. I was like, so I ain't trying to call like random kids I see on Instagram that's winning the U.S. Open. I'm taking a team that's literally like North Georgia, Chattanooga kids. And Brandon Bruner, our main guy that runs the dual teams, he's got a bunch of Brentwood, Nashville kids. We brought in Ground Zero Wrestling, who does a great job up there, man, in a remote area of Tennessee. Yesterday, I felt like a celebrity. They're heavyweight at Ground Zero. Big Jack, looks like a defensive tackle for dude. He comes up to me, and every time he sees me, he fist bump me. He goes, tell me about that top card, that clone card, man. He goes, you were telling me about it, dude. I play this every day. I need to know what it does. I said, it'll be in wave 3. He said, dude, I need it, bro. I think I can do something with that, bro. I was like, all right. So like, and apparently they play it with their families. And now their families are understanding what's happening in these matches that they wrestle.
That's good.
And I feel like that's the niche we've built here, right?
Yeah.
And on top of that, I feel like there is a storyline to these characters. And my long-term goal with Bmoney Beastin is the way that I think we can bring in more kids into the sport. Because that's what's important, right? To keep it growing, right? And kids seeing Bo Bassett that wrestle, right, are going to look up to Bo Bassett. Yeah. But kids that don't wrestle don't have a clue who Bo Bassett is.
100%.
Right?
100%. Yeah.
And of course, he's a stud dude. And everybody much love to that kid. And I hope he does great in college. But, like, if you're in the community, you know who Bo Bassett is. You respect Bo Bassett. You look up to Bo Bassett. Or Jax Forrest or any of these young kids coming up right now, But if you're not in the sport, how can we get you thinking about it?
Yeah.
And my idea was, and I'm still – this is my long-term goal. I want an animated series based off of my characters.
Yeah, I think it would work. I saw the YouTube videos. I think it's great.
I did that with some AI, and it took like 6 hours to try to get it right. Like, I'm by far not a production guy, like, at all. But I try, right? Like, I try hard, and I try to add dynamics into the story that makes people engaged in it, like what's about to happen. Like, my favorite storyline of those 8 videos I made was when Hammer was wrestling Zane, and Zane was the unbeaten. Let me pop up some right here so people know I'm talking about. I like Hammer's on the pink singlet there, and Zane's on the kind of dark red singlet. In the story there of that episode, it was like 19 minutes or 18 minutes or whatever. It was kind of small. It was probably less than that. I don't know, 9 minutes, whatever it was. Zane was unbeaten for like 4 years. And Hammer had won the Beastin State Championship in another division, the year before. So this is a big match, and it's in the newspaper and all this stuff. And they go to overtime. And I left it kind of hanging. They're going to overtime. And then I ended up how I wrote it was they went to Ultimate Rideout, and Hammer won on an Ultimate Rideout, like the biggest upset like that there ever been. And it reminds me, I wrote that like 5 months ago, and then Wyatt Hendrickson beat Gable Steveson. Like, it was like the biggest upset ever, and it was big. It was 2 big guys, and I immediately thought that's Hammer and Zane from the story. And so, like, the way I feel like this could be cool, and I don't know if it'll ever get to that, but I know that we have the foundation, the storyline, and the characters, and we keep adding characters. I think if you could get a show based on the sport of wrestling on a network or on Netflix or on, Hulu, you're going to pull kids because it's colorful. It's different. And I feel like there's a way to, at that point, it's the same thing as Power Rangers. I always relate it to Power Rangers. when I was a kid, when Power Rangers come out, dude, that was the coolest shit in the world, bro. They had the little badges on their belts, and it's morphin' time, and their heads. I had the toys where their heads flipped, and it's like, okay, so what happened during that time period though? Karate studios exploded. Everybody wanted to do what the Power Rangers did. So now, if you have a show based on amateur wrestling, folk style wrestling, right? And that is the United States version of wrestling, right? Folk style. Granted, you get them in, you can get them to wrestle freestyle and Greco in the spring or whatever. But say you bring in 5 million kids on something that's available worldwide, right? You bring in 5 million kids in the United States. I'm not saying that's going to happen. We can just make it a smaller number. Let's make it 2 million. And you keep 750,000 that stay in the sport of wrestling. That is a big win for everybody.
Oh, it really is.
Yeah. And I think it's possible. I just haven't quite figured out how to get there.
Yeah, because, man, you ever wonder, like, if there's somebody out there that could be, like, Olympic champion that not even exposed to the sport, right?
Yeah.
So,
like, you got kids too, man. Like, I have a soft spot for underprivileged kids. I am far from rich. I say that out loud. I make a decent living. I'm blessed. God blesses me daily. He makes sure I can take care of me and my family, and I'm thankful for that. But I'm far from rich. But, dude, I could never say no to a kid, right? I could always, and that was my biggest thing originally with Bmoney Beastin. I wanted to, like, sell merch and then give a donation to local schools to help pay off, like, lunch tabs and stuff. Like, everything that I want to do, I have to get to a certain scale so I can do these things that help others. And that's kind of my goal. But long term, I want a series. I think in the series, we could use the card game to kind of explain the rules of wrestling, which I think would be super cool. Maybe that's episode 1, and you use 2 characters that weren't in wave 1, and they're explaining it with playing the game. And I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas. And I want action figures at some point. And
absolutely.
I want it to come with like a mat, like a little mat. Like, so you know what I mean? Like, they have rings and like John Cena. Why not? Why can't there be MB versus Hammer or MB and JV? Why not? So that's kind of where I want it to go. And I want to, like, keep building that. And with the dual teams, I think it's going to be really cool. Like, I'm even throwing out the idea of making a Mat Clash set that's only available if you're wrestling our dual teams.
Oh, that's cool.
So, like, it's very collectible. And, like, we'll get, quite a bit of them, but we'll only hand them out to the dual team kids. So they'll get, like, the, special JV card or whatever we come up with that's different. And, so it's all about building a community and engagement and trying to make a difference. And I think we're doing a good job with Instagram, and we have our clubs that we do like gear and stuff for, and Mat Clash sells pretty well. So we're on our way, but I don't know where that goes. I just know that that's the end goal.
That's great, man. You're on your way.
That's the end goal.
Yeah.
Dude, tell me this, we've had a great hour-and-a-half conversation.
Yeah.
We have talked about everything from how you kind of got into this. We realized that we've both been up in Urbana at times. We talked about politics, which I never imagined that would happen, but I'm cool with it. We talked about the fact that you were literally next to Vin Diesel running lines, which is awesome, man. And now we've talked about how you kind of got into becoming a 45-year-old college wrestler, which is, dude, who cares if you ever win a match? I know you do personally, but in general, does it matter? No. You're the freaking man, dude. You are doing something at an age that most people they've shelved their life, dude. Like, as they go on, like, there was a time period where at like 35, 32, I was like, this is it for me. Like, this is it. And I would have never. Now, could I play football today? Absolutely not. But
well, it's tough, right?
But at the same time, it's like, it's inspirational, man. It makes you think that, and I told the same thing I told to Pitts. That's why I told you that story, earlier about him winning the U.S. Open last week or a few days ago.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, forever you have that, and you just inspired a whole group of people that know you.
Yeah.
And I think that you, in general, you're inspiring people that maybe they just get off the couch and go to the gym. Maybe
That's right, man.
Maybe they just say, hey, I've been eating like shit for a decade. Maybe I should clean up my diet. Or maybe they say, this dude's 45, I'm 45, and my back's killing me, and he's out there getting headlocked over and over. Maybe I should start with like 10 push-ups a day. And so you're inspiring a generation. And I think that needs to be utilized. So, dude, I think you need to continuously document your journey, because I think it's absolutely an amazing thing that you won't see again for another 10, 15, 20 years, right? If ever, right? And I think that regardless if you ever win a match, man, I'm telling you this, me and you are going to be tight for a long time. I can tell.
Oh, yeah.
And dude, I tell you, man, like, just document it, because it's going to be something that maybe in 10 years, you got a kid that, I'm just making up a scenario, and I always think about scenarios that could really affect people. You got a kid that's a JV kid, he's a junior, and he's like, I'm never going to make it. And then he sees a 45-year-old guy that got his ass whooped over and over and over and over, but he kept fighting. And instead of him quitting, he shows back up. And his senior year, he goes on, maybe he places at state.
Yeah.
It changes his life, right? So, dude, I'm inspired by you.
Hey, I appreciate it, Jesse.
And bro, I want to do another one of these with you later on. And I want like updates, man. Like, before we close up though, this has been the longest episode I've ever done. I love it. Usually we average about an hour and 5. This is great.
Yeah.
I want to, before we close up, I want you to tell us where you're at now in terms of like how much eligibility you got left, right? And how much you plan to use. And then like, what's your degree going to ultimately be? And what would be your next step once this concludes?
So, I technically have 3 years in a redshirt year left to wrestle.
Dude, that's awesome.
So, I'm gonna wrestle next year, and I think I'll be able to get like maybe 3 or so tournaments in, and that would put me at the oldest college wrestler in history, I believe. I've been researching it, and I think at 46, that'll give me the nod on that. And
Guinness Book of World Records, baby.
Yeah, I got to see. I was looking that up. I was looking online. I didn't really go on the Guinness book, but I don't know. But I think that would put me at oldest. And then if anybody wants to break that record, I'd still have 2 years of eligibility left. So then I'd go back to my master's so I can hold the record. Okay, so I am I'm gonna get that degree next year at this time. Knock on wood, everything goes the way I'm planning it. I will have finished. I'll be about to get my degree from the school in business.
Okay.
And I'm gonna keep plugging along. I got comedy shows all the time. I'm doing one tonight in Toledo, Ohio, at a place called Funny Bone. And I'm gonna have to get down there to Chattanooga and do a gig at some point. And
dude, we used to have the Comedy Catch, and they shut it down. And a lot of big names came there, like Cat Williams, and like a lot of big names came there, and they shut it down. But dude, there's a place in Chattanooga. What is that? It's a bar. Aaron Lewis performed there not long ago.
Oh wow.
I'll look it up and text it to you.
Yeah.
When I figure it out. I forget what it's called. But dude, if we could get you, I would love to have you a whole bit about wrestling and really promote you. Like if you have clips and stuff, man, post them on Instagram and invite me to collaborate, and I'll help you grow.
Okay, yeah, because what I would like to do next, because you're asking about the future, is I've had all this experience in the entertainment industry and wrestling and everything, and I just want to kind of share my story. That's why I appreciate coming on your podcast. Is to I want to like do my shows at night, but during the day I want to go talk to the wrestlers, to the high schools, even if they're not wrestlers. I want to go to schools, and I want to go to places and kind of share my story to motivate, because I know that people are motivated from it because I get messages and stuff. And I didn't know that was going to come out of it. Right. I did this for me. You know, I'm not like a good Samaritan. I had unfinished business. I kept looking back at my past and being, I never wrestled in college. Well, it's hard to move forward when you're looking backward. How can I go here when there's something in the back in my rearview mirror? So it's going to be done. I'm going to cut that next year. Even now I've cut it, but next year is my goal to finish off. Cut that, boom. I don't have to look back at something I didn't do. I ended up doing it. Did it take me longer than most people? Yes. Did it get done? Yes. So, you know, that's kind of what I want to do with this in the future. I mean, to me, it's like you said, it's been a win to go out there and do this and to get my body back into the shape that is the best possible I could be in. Now, can I beat the other guys in a sprint? No, but that ain't the point, right? It's like, so I hope that this story gets out to people and that they motivated. And I know there's guys sitting out there right now at home eating pizza that can do more. You know, they can do more, but sometimes you need to see. For me, it was seeing somebody else have done it, right? I had to go to Google when I woke up from that dream and look. Well, it's been done before. If somebody else can do it, I can do it. So that's what I want to do. You know, I want to just kind of keep doing what I'm doing, just better. And anytime I can get in front of a group of people and tell this story, I will. And hopefully, you know, it'll encourage people to do something extra. Like you said, even if, hey, man, if one person does 10 extra push-ups because they saw some guy survive a wrestling match at age 45, dude, that's a bonus.
That's a win.
You know, and it's just, I'm glad it worked out that way. Like I said, I can't say that I was going into this expecting that to happen. I was going in, can I survive? Am I tough enough? That's what I was wondering. Am I tough enough to handle it? Do I have it? And if I have it now, then I know I had it back then. But, you know, God brought my life in a different direction, right? I was not meant to do it till now. If I would have went straight to college and wrestled when I was 19, 20 years old, however I was back then, it wouldn't have been a story. I think I could have been done a lot better, obviously. I think my goal would have been to be an All-American back then. Would I would have made it? Maybe, you know, maybe not. I don't know. But I would have been, I mean, you know, I was naturally more athletic back then. I was certainly faster.
Right.
So, so
I
anyway.
believe God has a plan for all of us.
Yeah.
And I look back at my life too, and it's funny you said that. It's in the rear view.
Yeah.
You know, we are going to close up in a few minutes, I promise. But dude, I got this this quick story. It's funny you said that. It triggered me a little bit. I was a pretty good football player, and at one time I was like, dude, I had a chance to play college football. I remember I went to Middle Tennessee State at a camp. They're Division I, and had I went there, we would have played Oklahoma my freshman year, and I'd be like, that'd be cool, right? Even if I didn't play, if I was just there, it'd be cool.
Yeah, awesome.
And I got in trouble. I got arrested. I went to jail. That went away. All I did was what a lot of kids are doing now. Everybody smokes pot. I just had some at the time, and back then it was a bigger deal, and they arrested me and put me in jail. I spent a weekend. My dad laughed, said, I ain't coming to get you. I didn't put you there. I was scared to call my mom. I figured she'd shoot me. So finally, they let me out on Monday. My mom thought the whole time I was staying the night at my buddy's house, right? Like,
wow. Okay.
So, anyway, long story short, I got out of that. I did my community service or whatever. And, but you know, colleges, they don't want to deal with bullshit, right? They just don't. And kind of the same scenario recurred again for my son, right? Like he got in some trouble this year and he got suspended. And before that, you know, it looked like he had a chance to go to a private school, and then that kind of went away. And, you know, things happen, right? Like you make bad choices. You just got to, how do you rebound from those bad choices? And I look back at my life, and yeah, I loved football. But if I'd have played another 5 years, I had 4 knee surgeries. I tore my rotator cuff. I got a plate in my left hand. I'd probably be dead, right? So, like, okay. I remember I went and tried out for about 3 weeks after I didn't go to college. They had this Rome, Georgia had this like semi-pro team, and they were trying to get guys recruited to get them into school. So I went down there and tried out, and you know I was too small to play linebacker, and I was too big to play safety, and I wasn't fast enough to play corner or safety. but I was kind of too slow to play, or I wasn't fast enough to play linebacker either. So it's like, this is just some tweener white kid. Like, what are we doing, right?
Yeah.
But I actually did pretty well. Like, I ran I think 4.9 or something, which, I was 244 pounds at the time.
Wow.
So it's like, okay. But I was 6'2", 244. I ran a 4.9. I did I think I did 16 reps at 225. Now, this is when I was 18, right? 19. And I was like, so I showed a little something. Like, short shuttles they run at the combine. I ran one like 4.03 or something down there. Like, I was decently athletic, but it wasn't because I was athletic. It's because I worked hard, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't have natural athletic ability. I just worked hard.
Mm-hmm.
And what's crazy is my son upstairs, who's God knows playing Xbox or something, he's naturally athletic. And I think that he gets away with stuff that aggravates me because I didn't, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah,
so,
right.
But looking back at it, I went to try out for this team, and about a week later, they called the house, the old house phones. You remember those, right? I had a pink house in my bedroom, like a pink cordless phone. It was the most ridiculous thing. I don't even know why I had it, but called and said, yeah, man, we'll put you on the roster. You have to show up. This was in like June or something. You have to show up August 1st. We're having practice at 7 p.m. so everybody can work because everybody had jobs at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, but you have to buy your own equipment, and it's a $365 fee to, or whatever. So total it'd be like $800. You're talking about 2007-ish. It's like, dude, I'm a broke 18-year-old kid. I think I got 8 cents in my fucking cup holder in my car. This ain't happening. My mom worked paycheck to paycheck. My dad did, there's no way. So I remember in that moment, I thought to myself, I was like, this is over. It's just over. I made my choices. I had a chance to play NAIA football after that, after I got in trouble. And I didn't want to. I was like, because I was kind of cocky, stupid cocky. Like, I'm better than that, which I wasn't. Not even close. But at the time, you think you are.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought back on my life with this Bmoney Beastin thing. And when I was in high school, when I was a junior, I made $975 in cash legally through an entrepreneurship class. I realized how to leverage something that one person does and make money on it. And I had to create a product for my final exam and sell it through the school. So there was a class downstairs, graphic art, something that made T-shirts. And I asked the guy, his name was Greg Sherrock, nice guy, man. I used to hang out with his son years ago. I said, dude, how much would you charge me for a one color font, front, back? $1.25. Now, this is 2005, right? Now it probably cost you $9 or something. All right, cool. I said, so if I bring you $1.25 piece, what size does that go up to? Any size you want. It's like, cool. I take a legal pad. I made the stupidest design in the history of the world. It said Ringgold Fall Sports 2005. Our football team sucked that year because our quarterback got hurt in the spring game. The only game that we went 1-9 that year. That's as true as I can make it. And our the only thing I could put on there for football for the fall sports shirt was that we won the Catoosa Cup because we did beat our rival that year. So I put that on there. The girls softball team won state. Volleyball made it to the Elite Eight. Like whatever. And I put it on the back. And I knew if I put everybody on there for the fall sports, you got the people who played them and their boyfriend, girlfriend, mom, dad. I knew it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I during entrepreneurship class, I was running. They had a slushy machine that made money for like some kind of club, right? And I was like the manager of it. So I had some girl sitting out there selling slushies. I had a legal pad pre-selling all these shirts. These kids are giving me 20s and 10s and 5s. I looked like Scarface, bro. I had like Tony Montana money going on.
That's awesome.
I go to Chirac after about 3 weeks of taking pre-orders, and I paid him for these shirts. And then I put this money in a Ziploc bag and I put it under my pillow, right? I was like, nobody's going to look here. And then within about a week, he had those back. During the lunch periods, I was handing them out, right, to all these people. I counted, I had $976 and some change. That was mine that I made off of this. And I went to the entrepreneurship, and he said, so which club are you donating that to? I said, Jesse Drennan's club.
Yes, right.
They were trying to get me to give that to like some kind of fucking club. I'm like, dude, I did this myself.
Yeah.
That's my money.
Yeah.
I'm 4. I live in a double wide, bro. Like, no way. And I went and bought like Jinko jeans and a pair of Jordans and some all kinds of shit, right? And I remember looking back on that when I started Bmoney Beast, and I'm like, I understand how to start here and get to here. Let me try this.
Yeah.
So I've kind of cut ties, like you said, with my past of what, and I always had interest in it, right? Do I have a business degree? Absolutely not. I'm just a dude. I have a degree in broadband technology.
Yeah.
Is that ever going to help me long term? Absolutely not. I mean, it does relate to the business I work in, but I don't remember 85% of that shit.
Right.
I feel like real life experience you can pull from that in your past, man. And so I just wanted to tell you, I completely related to what you said right there about let's cut this off and try it, and then I don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
Dude, this is awesome.
Yeah.
I want to do this again. Before we go, I want you to tell everybody that's going to see this where they can follow you, on what platform, at whatever, so they can find you, because more people need to know about this.
Yeah. So all my stuff is just under my name, Brian Swinehart, which is written here, BrianSwinehart. And so I've kind of put if you're on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, whatever, it's all the same. I've kind of just put the videos up as I make them. I have more matches that I need to post at some point. I just haven't gotten around to edit because my life is kind of busy right now. But and I, if you can look me up, you'll see too that I perform in different venues, and I got more wrestling footage on the way, and send me a message, stay in touch. That's the best way, and just kind of, I appreciate all the support that people have given me, man. It's really nice. I really, that kind of motivates me too. All the people have been like, supporting me, so saying nice things.
Absolutely, dude. You're an inspiration. I have absolutely enjoyed just chilling with you, bro.
Yeah.
We're gonna do this again. This is when I put up the tag about this episode, I'm gonna put on there purposely part 1.
Okay.
There's gonna be a part 2.
Oh yeah. I mean, I got another season to do.
Yeah, dude. Like, we're gonna do this again. So, man, I appreciate it. Thank you, Brian Swinehart, 45-year-old NAIA wrestler. Yeah, he's going to break the Guinness Book of World Records for the oldest ever, and this is awesome. Yeah. Episode 46 of the Bmoney Beastin podcast,
and that's what I'll be coming up in August. I'll be 46, so that works.
Dude, that was awesome. Ironic.
Yep.
In the books.